Good seeing you.
Are they real flowers?
No, oh, there's too many in it now. How are you doing?
Yeah.
How effective is a leader that does not demonstrate a belief in that which they assert? I remember I've taken leadership courses in employment before, and I remember one of the main points was when you're leading a group of men or people, you have to own the message. You have to take ownership of the message, meaning corporate might say this, and you might we don't always agree with corporate, do we? In a work environment, do we? But if we're effectively guiding our team in that message, we've got to take ownership of that message. Does that make sense? How effective is a leadership that does not act in accordance with the message that they are trying to guide their team in? I mean, I remember just in 2020, right? You remember what happened in 2020? Election, that was one. Yeah. Yeah, the guy got killed. So it was mask up and close down, right? Two things. Mask up and close down. Individuals, they were told to mask up. Businesses were told to shut their doors, right? You remember that? It's crazy times, crazy times. And then we had leaders that were preaching this, and then what happens? They get caught in going out to eat somewhere. They don't have their masks on. It's like, how am I supposed to take that leader seriously now, right? How am I supposed to take that message seriously now, right? A word comes to mind, hypocrisy, right? We're opening up a section of Scripture between chapters 28 and chapter 33. Some have grouped in 35 with this, and I might end up doing that. So, but chapter 28 is going to be speaking specifically to the leadership of Samaria and Judah. And we've gone over some of this in the introduction, actually. Doesn't hurt to repeat it. In fact, that's going to be one of the points we go over is repetition in God's word and our attitude toward that. So maybe it's good that we repeat some of it. We brought it up in the introduction because we were setting the context. What is Judah going through? What are they have some changes that need to be made. What are those changes? So that's why we were going over it in the introduction. But now we're here in chapter 28, and we're going to be discussing this leadership of Samaria, leadership, my translation says Ephraim. It's speaking of Israel. And then also of Judah, specifically the religious leadership of Judah that we see in chapter 29. So we first see a look at the spiritual blindness and the hypocrisy of Israel. I wonder if we could have somebody read for us. Let me think here. Chapter 28 and verses 1 through 6, please.
Woe to that wreath, the pride of Ephraim's drunkards, to the fading flower, his glorious beauty, set on the head of a fertile valley. To that city, the pride of those laid low by wine. See, the Lord has one who is powerful and strong, like a hailstorm and a destructive wind, like a driving rain and a flooding downpour. He will throw it forcefully to the ground. That wreath, the pride of Ephraim's drunkards, will be trampled underfoot. That fading flower, his glorious beauty, set on the head of a fertile valley. will be like days right before harvest. As soon as people see them, take them in hand, they swallow them. In that day, the Lord Almighty will be a glorious crown, a beautiful wreath for the remnant of his people. He will be a spirit of justice to the one who sits in judgment, a source of strength to those who turn back to battle at the gate.
All right. We can, yep, there, that's good. Thank you very much. So here, the faults of both the leadership, as we said, of Israel, which is what, the kingdom to the north, and Judah, who is actually the immediate audience of Isaiah. Both nations are being outlined by Isaiah here for the faults of their leadership. And he's going to pronounce many woes in these chapters. I believe that's one, when we were listing the sins of Judah, this is something we visited in the introduction. And so the faults that we're reading of here, many are specific to the leadership. Now, who do we remember was corrupt, according to Isaiah, starting in chapter 1? In chapter 1, from head to foot, right? From let me get the exact wording here. Well, it's from basically from head to foot is the idea. Having a hard time finding it there, but everybody is corrupt, according to Isaiah. Here he's outlining the leadership. One of the sins that we looked at was the alliances that they made with the nations. Who did Israel make their alliance with? Syria. And Judah. Who did Ahaz make his alliance with? Assyria, right? And then we're going to talk about Egypt coming up. So Egypt's coming up, but Ahaz made the mistake of aligning himself with Assyria, and we see what happens when Hezekiah comes on the scene in the coming chapters here. But who oversees the making of alliances with other nations? It's the leadership, right? It's the leadership that does that. And the leadership is important when it comes to a nation. Those in leadership positions have they have sway over the direction that a nation goes. In fact, throughout the histories of both of these nations, of Israel and Judah, we've noted this as well. The unmistakable pattern: when a good king is on the throne, we have reform. We have the nation going in a direction more aligned with God's plan. But then you have bad kings, such as Ahaz. And who do we have as a good king on Israel's side, the northern kingdom? Not a one. Not a one, right? Who falls first? Israel goes into Assyrian captivity first. So there's something to be said about good leaders. And so let's define here the crown of pride there, as we read in verse 1 of chapter 28. The crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, speaking of the leadership of Israel, those that hold the power. And we find, if we continue to read, that there is a problem with drunkenness on the part of the leadership. And especially with Judah, we're going to talk about the religious leadership having a problem with it. And so that's who we're talking about to start off with, though, is the leadership of Israel. Later, when we look at chapter 29, we start off with this name that you may not see very many places in the Bible. It says there, "Woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add ye year to year. Let them kill sacrifices. Yet I will distress Ariel, and there shall be heaviness and sorrow, and it shall be unto me as Ariel." So there's a play on words actually happening here. He's referring to Jerusalem, and that name Ariel actually has two potential meanings. Lion of God. Remember, Judah was referred to as what? Lion's whelp, right? So a lion of God is what that word Ariel means. And then there's another interpretation, altar hearth of God, the altar hearth of God. So lion of God, that would symbolize or emphasize the strength of Jerusalem and or the royal status. You can, if you look at 2 Samuel chapter 5, verses 6 and 9. 2 Samuel 5, 6 through 9. And the king and his men went to Jerusalem unto the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, which spake unto David, saying, Except thou take away the blind and the lame, thou shalt not come in hither, thinking David cannot come in hither. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, the same as the city of David. And David said on that day, Whosoever getteth up to the gutter, and smiteth the Jebusites and the lame and the blind, that are hated of David's soul, he shall be chief and captain. Wherefore they said, The blind and the lame shall not come into the house. So David dwelt in the fort and called it the city of David. And David built round about from Millo and inward. So David there captures the city of Zion and makes it his own. This is where David and his lineage would rule from then and on. And then you have the name altar hearth. You know, in English we have words that can have two different meanings, right? And I get the sense that's what we're looking at here with Ariel. So altar hearth. So that would refer to a hearth in the temple where the sacrifices were offered. And this actually aligns with the way the word choices that Isaiah is giving. I will distress Ariel. There shall be, add ye year to year, let them kill sacrifices. So it's referencing this point, this location as the religious role that Jerusalem had to Judah, to God's people. So that's who he's speaking of here. And he's speaking we keep it in context, he's speaking specifically to their leaders. So we see in verses 1 through 4, as Tom just read, would refer to the judgment on Ephraim as a warning. Woe on Israel's pride, woe to their drunkenness. And drunkenness, we find, makes one blind, both literally and metaphorically. Makes one blind. Drunkards here, if you look at the Strongs, is translated intoxicated. When you think of someone who is intoxicated, what do you think? Stumbling? Why do you stumble? You're impaired, aren't you? Your motor skills are impaired because this thing's impaired, right? You have impaired judgment in all your faculties. So Isaiah here is referring to the leadership here. They are impaired mentally, and you get the sense he's speaking both physically and metaphorically here. Again, most of Isaiah is what kind of literature? Apocalyptic on the chapters we just studied, right? It's also, the style is poetic, right? It's Hebrew poetry, right? So we keep that in mind as we're reading here. Ariel, just the fact that he used Ariel the way he did speaks to the poetry, and the fact that he's drawing in their problem of drunkenness, which is literal. Let's see, I think it was chapter 5. Chapter 5. Chapter 5, and starting in verse 11, Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them. And the harp and the viol and the tabret and pipe and wine are in their feasts, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. So, again, you will have impaired judgment, right? Alcohol brings all that stuff into one's character. So in chapter 5, that's literal. That he's speaking literally of their drunkenness, of their following after wine. This is so characteristic of anyone. The alcoholic is always seeking that next drink. So anytime something controls you, that's a problem, right? Anytime something is impairing your faculties, that's a problem. It's sin. Hosea details how that wine takes away understanding. So again, Isaiah chapter 5 says the Lord's judgments, they're not in their minds. It's not in their minds. When we go to, if somebody could read for us Hosea chapter 4 and verse 11, please. Hosea 4:11. Yep. You could read 12 if you wanted, in addition. So wine takes away one's. Some translations say heart, and yours said understanding. So that's what it means. The heart is the inner man. The heart is the conscious, the man's consciousness. And so, what does alcohol do to that? It takes away understanding. It impairs you. And so, the results of alcohol do not bring characteristics you want to see in a leader, do they? I think I brought this up when we were going through the introduction. Washington, D.C. ranks as, it fluctuates. Sometimes it's number 2, sometimes it's number 3, as the highest per capita consumer of alcohol in the U.S. Washington, D.C. Who's in Washington, D.C. again? People think that fancy themselves leaders, right? So we don't want our legislators controlled by something that impairs their judgment. Right? They're supposed to be writing and voting on legislation on our behalf that affects us. We don't want their judgment impaired, do we? No. So these are problems. This is a big problem for Judah. This is a big problem for Israel. And so, how would you feel to be under the leadership of a drunk if they are putting, especially in a military context? You don't want to be under the leadership of somebody whose decisions are life and death for you, right? And that's what the positions that Israel's leaders were in, and Judah's leaders were in. Judah's leaders, specifically, we're going to get there. He's speaking of a spiritual leadership there. He's speaking of the priesthood as we begin in chapter 29. But here we have a contrast. Isaiah is drawing a contrast here in those first 6 verses. He's drawing a contrast between the roles of those leaders and God's role as a crown for the remnant here. So in verses 5 and 6 here, the blind, drunken pride of Israel's leaders can be contrasted with the provision that God provides. So many ways we can go with this, because the drunkard, does he take care of his family? No. God's a contrast to that. It's not. He is provision for the remnant. So was the leadership in Isaiah's day, were they concerned with the well-being of their nation, those that they led? No. But God is a contrast to that. Think about how much hope that would bring to those that would hear Isaiah's message in that day. So crowns in that day, we're looking at Ephraim, woe to the crown of pride. Throughout history, crowns have symbolized what? Royalty, authority, right? And so there was a time when in Israel's history where they replaced God with a crown, right? And we can read of that in 1 Samuel chapter 8. But Isaiah here, here's another way of looking at it. He's reversing that. He's reversing that. Isaiah is pointing to a day where God's people no longer look to earthly nations, leaders, etc. The remnant is going to enjoy being set apart for His purpose. As we've gone over many a time, Isaiah chapter 4, starting in verse 2, "In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written upon among the living in Jerusalem." The remnant is going to be, what's holy mean? Set apart. The remnant is going to enjoy being set apart for God's purpose. And no man can take that away from them. No man can take that away from you, right? So we see this we see that in Isaiah chapter 4. We also see it reiterated by Isaiah to Hezekiah. Let's see, 2 Kings chapter 19 and verse 31. "For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this." So Assyria could not take that away from them. And no man can take that away from us today. He's our King. He's our Redeemer. Yes, ma'am.
In college, that I tried to drunkenness, like within the church, to men or to guys that I was in college with who are supposed to be striving to be leaders in the church. Like I had to repeat that so much because one guy said, "I don't agree with drinking, but I'm okay with it. The Bible doesn't directly say do not drink or this, X, Y, Z." But there's so many thoughts, like there's so many principles, so many things that talk about being sober-minded that you can say it's not something we shouldn't be drinking.
Right.
And these, talking about leaders and whatnot, and like the future. And I know that's always a thing in the church, like social drinking and whatnot. But it does make you like think when you're looking at these college guys that are supposed to be leaders in the church. They're saying this is okay. It's one of those things where it's one of those discouraging things. And even I had to and where it should be.
Right. Yeah. And the drunken thing is the thing where it's only a sin to get drunk. I'm trying to think on the fly, which I'm not good at. Where's banquetings? Where's that word at? 1 Peter 4. Okay. So I was hanging around 2 Peter there. I was in the wrong one. So it was 4. Yep. "For the time past of our life may suffice to us have wrought the will of the Gentiles when we walked in lasciviousness, lusts, excess of wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries." So, you might think, why would Paul repeat himself 3 times when we're reading that in the English language? We see wine, revelings, banquetings, and to us, does anybody have different translation there? Drinking parties, that's another one. So the way I understand that, if you look at the language, that's 3 different levels of it. And it's not It's not a blackout thing. It's not just a blackout thing. It's social drinking. It's defining social drinking when it says banquetings, when it says drinking parties, right?
Yeah, and the command, 1 Peter 5, verse 8, the command is to be sober.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had, to Corey's point, with brethren who will try to explain away in all kinds of different formats. But the Bible describes it as poison
Mm-hmm.
in the Proverbs. But the command is to be sober.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, and about the men thing and about
Yeah.
the leadership thing, I think this is key. Let's be real here. Adults in leadership positions with high strung environments, tons of stress.
Yeah.
The thing almost everybody wants universally, Washington, D.C. proves it, is to dilute the mind.
Yes.
Why? Because it allows for us to
Take the edge off.
take the edge off,
Yeah.
right? And it's interesting because the command actually says to be sober. Verse 7, now remember, verses are added by men.
Mhm.
Verse 7 is telling us what the context is. When
Yeah.
we are filled with care.
Yep.
So again, like, husband, father, life, difficulty, leadership, king, whatever.
Mhm.
You're like, you live in constant care. I mean, you're just constantly overwhelmed with, Hannah and I use the term stress paralysis. I mean, that's just how you live.
Mhm.
So what's the default for man? Oh, I need a drink.
Yeah. Dull it.
But the
Yeah.
commandment is
Be sober.
be sober.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's the exact opposite of what man wants to do.
Mhm.
And it's, again, not to get political, but it's interesting because our current president doesn't drink. And everyone can agree, regardless of political viewpoint. He is a spaz.
Mhm.
Everyone knows that, right? When he's
Mhm.
tweeting at 3 a.m. and just doesn't ever stop.
Yeah.
And he's made the comment. He said, "Could you imagine if I did?" Like, in other words, he's so high strung. What's the
Yes.
reverse of that gonna become?
Oh, yeah.
And he had a brother who died of alcoholism. So again, like, God has given us capabilities, and man says, "Whoa, wait a second. We all got to kind of be the same and just never like." But well, alcohol may do that to you, but in actuality, you may bring something to the table that you need. It's needed. So
Mhm.
it is sad. There's too many men and young people who don't get this enough. Be sober.
Amen. Absolutely. So I think my next point was all about intoxication and mockery as well. But it's verses 1 through 4 there. We see, we've gone over all that. I see. Okay. So any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I was thinking, as much as it is about drunkenness per se, it's the visibility of it that I think is maybe at the heart of what Isaiah is trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
We can do a lot of things that don't affect others, at least visibly.
Right.
But when you're staggering down the street and there's stories of wild parties, it's hard to think that there's anything good about that person.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. It was the visibility of it. It wasn't a sin for the layman or the lower guy, but it was, we're in the context of this is the leadership. This is serious. They're leading an entire nation that's supposed to bring about the Christ, right? And so it was a huge problem. So that was the first one, the first spell. So we then look at false foundations here to, let's see, Isaiah 28:14 and 15. Well, I'll go ahead and pick up in verse 7, actually. But they also have erred through wine and strong drink. I don't need to miss that. Okay, never mind. We're not going to. Let's go back here. So you may be thinking, I thought he's talking to Israel, right? He's talking to Judah as well. Look at verse 7. But they also, who's they also? Verse 7. But they also have erred through wine. He's turning his attention here to where are the priests? Where are the priests located? Are they in Samaria? Priests in Samaria? Where are they? Jerusalem. They're in Jerusalem. So if he's turning his sight, again, verse 7, but they also have erred through wine and through strong drink are out of the way, the priest and the prophet. He's turning his attention from Ephraim, the leadership of Ephraim, the crown of pride in Ephraim, to the priest and the prophet. He's turning his attention to Jerusalem. They've erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. And this is very descriptive here, verse 8. For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so there is no place clean. It's pretty descriptive, isn't it? When I see someone vomit, it makes me want to vomit. If I hear them vomit, it makes me want to vomit. If I see vomit, it makes me want to vomit. So if I'm picturing what Isaiah is putting down here, I'm not feeling very well. Verse 9, whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts? For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and other tongues will he speak to his people, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith he may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. But the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. Do you ever hear the same thing preached from the pulpit multiple times, but maybe by the same man? Do you ever know those people, or maybe you're one of them yourself that goes, oh, here he goes again. He's going off on attendance. Like he always does, right?
No, but I tried to catch a preacher that kept saying the same, he talked about the same subject. So
Mhm.
morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, I kept trying to catch him repeating something.
Mm-hmm.
Never did. I don't know how he did that.
Oh, you did? Okay, he's talking the same subject. Well, I don't know. Well, here's their attitude. I'm getting these. He's repeating himself, the same thing over and over and over. Well, think about it. It's probably because you need it, right? Preachers will probably stop going on about attendance if that stops being a problem, right? Make sense? But these men are mocking it. They're mocking a prophet of God for his repetition. He's very vividly. Have you ever read that like I did? You know, precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept. Line upon line. Line upon line. When you hear that, that's jarring, isn't it? That just the mockery that Isaiah went through makes you think about how we treat preachers today, doesn't it? So Judah's experiencing their leadership is erring. They're drunken, literally drunken. They're spiritually drunken. They are mocking a prophet of God for speaking the things that God has given him. It's a sad state of affairs in Judah. And I think that's our time. Any comments or questions? Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I forgot I was going to bring this illustration up, but I was growing up, my mom would say, when I left the house, you have your wallet? I'd be like, yeah, got my wallet. Got it. But one day she did not. I did not bring my wallet. And I ran out of gas. So now Corey, I'm not saying she's replaced my mom, but I am not annoyed with her because it's the same question every morning, isn't it? Phone, keys, wallet, right? I'll be like, yep, I got it. So repetition is much needed. And thank you all for your attention.